Hey guys, just was waiting a little bit to make sure to share the stream with everyone on Facebook and Twitter and such. So I'm gonna get started for when people come in. For people who are watching the video later, we can just hop on and kind of get going. I don't want to wait too long. So this is kind of, you know, surprising to say, but it's 2018. It's a nice summer day, I think, and right now we are looking at the possibility of having to talk about whether or not voting rights is an issue in this year, today, like right now. And it's kind of astounding to have that come out of my mouth, but it is what it is. So let's get to it. Here are the facts. So we have Georgia County, where election officials Friday had to. This is a completely, mostly majority black county in Georgia, where election officials just decided to cut a proposal they just had. The proposal was to close it's 7 out of 9 of the voting polling places. 7 out of 9 of them in this rural county, in this majority black county. So the original idea was to completely close down which the majority of their polling stations. And of course, the ACLU and other organizations were like, whoa, hold on, this is ridiculous. This is why we said we need to make sure that the VRA, the Voting Rights Act, is completely restored to what it's supposed to be and what it once was. I want to give you a little background on what exactly that means because a lot of people have been saying that in lieu of this, and it's definitely worth going over. I happened to actually write about this in 2015, seems like not that long ago, but kind of is, and we're still dealing with this issue kind of. So here's a little bit of the background. In the article I wrote about how the Constitution, generally enumerates powers and also restricts powers of the government in multiple ways, and this is pretty seriously seen throughout, and we know why. I took a look at Madison's notes from the 1787 Constitutional Convention, and you can really feel when reading them. I'll leave a link in the description where there's this idea that we really have to be careful about giving the government too much power and having all this dictatorial um, power possibly given to an executive or really any branch because they're afraid. They just dealt with um, a real, a battle between them fighting for their rights with a huge monarchy, and had also been dealing with the Articles of Confederation, where they're trying to find this balance of giving power and also preserving the rights of individuals. So moving on from that, the government can't really grant the government can't deny or abridge the right to vote as per the Constitution. And it expressly states that the right to vote can't be abridged. You can't deny it in any way, but it never exactly says that there's a right to vote. And this is how most things in the Constitution work. They're more, things that are rights that are assumed, essentially. But when it comes to the implications and the applications of laws, and especially when it comes to the right to vote, as we've seen, there's a great journalist whose article I'll put down in the description where he kind of lays out this whole idea that it's the right to vote has been kind of like for I'll say the constitutional dictation of how to preserve the right to vote. It's kind of been like the dog sitter's instructions for taking care of a dog without actually saying that there's a dog. So eventually the dog's been left to starve in many ways, and that's the way some people definitely think about it. And if we look at what really happened was the VRA, the Voting Rights Act, when passed, was really these clear instructions. The dog's name is Spot, and this is how you protect him. It's pretty clear and simple on the way the VRA kind of went in and made sure that this was done. Um, looking at it historically, this really the VRA protected the right to vote quite well. up until perhaps 2013, many will argue, the Supreme Court case Selby v. Holder. Now, this case, the ACLU and other organizations like the Leadership Conference and different chapters of the ACLU around have really taken to say that this decision took the legs out of the VRA. What it did was it struck a section that forced states that had in the past been liable to pass the Jim Crow laws, to have the voting rights restrictions that we know, like the guess how many gumballs are in that container over there, and many other the voting rights laws that we had known to discriminate specifically against African Americans, mostly in the South. The 2013 Selby versus Holder decision said that they no longer have to pass any new voting rights laws through the federal government. They can just write these laws and it's okay now because that time is over. The time of Jim Crow, the time of voting rights restrictions is over. And right after that, in literally the year 2014, we saw a massive influx of voting rights restrictions. North Carolina, Mississippi, and many other states passed ID laws, and they lessened absentee voting. We saw in 2014 83 new bills that didn't that literally did what people argued that they would do: voting restriction. So let's get back to Georgia exactly. Um, After plans to close it, the national media closed the 7 of 9 polling stations. The national media really got on them. There was a lot of coverage of this. There were angry letters sent to those polling places. It was pretty like pretty much a national, huge, big issue at that time. And it was even more important, many would say, because this was in the middle of a hotly contested, historic governor's race. We had Brian Kemp, the Republican, who would be running against Stacey Abrams, who would be the first black governor of Georgia. It's not a good look for the county officials, the election officials, at all. Um, so they pulled back their program, their plan to close these stations down, and cited that the reasons for closing were ADA, American Disabilities Act, compliance issues with those polling stations. It's definitely a problem that should be dealt with, but further research shows that the problem was supposed to be dealt with in 2015, and they just now decided that they were just going to close it down. The ACLU, the NAACP, the Education Fund, Leadership Conference, have all, especially the Georgia and ACLU, they all wrote a letter together and specifically told the election commission, hey, you can definitely get someone from the community to do these repairs to make it compliant with the Disabilities Act, from someone very local, a local vendor. You don't need a big contract. You don't have to close them down, and it can probably be cheaper than what you would have otherwise. So, a lot of people are arguing that this is not about saving costs. This is not about anything but the right to vote, and it has become a huge issue. And it's putting voting rights restrictions, lessening the times of voting, and cutting down absentee ballots and closing of stations. It's really putting that on the radar for this upcoming midterm election. I want to know what you guys think about this. This story was kind of covered, but I felt like it wasn't really given um, as much intense look in the national media as it could have. So that's why I decided to talk about that this week. Yeah, please in the comments tell me what you guys feel about those laws. I know some people, and I've talked to them, who think that the many of the ID laws are fine and that they're just something that should be done. And I often feel there's a happy medium with a um, instant registration that's automatic. Just it comes with being an American citizen. It seems like a good happy medium for these types of things. But I want to know what you guys think. And do you feel like this is just straight up a coverage for discriminatory acts in the middle of what could be a historic election in Georgia? It should be pretty cool. So yeah, Also, if there's something else you guys want us to talk about and cover, please leave it in the comments. We would love to hear what you guys think and what issues you think are not being covered in the media, because that happens, obviously. And yeah, so I'm Isaiah Thompson with DailyClout. It's good talking to you guys this week. If you like our content, like our videos, please subscribe and like our videos and comment. And also, if you really want to support us and the work we're doing, you can go to our Patreon. I'm going to leave the link in the description below, but it's Daily Cloud, and you can become a patron and support us in our work and join our community, because we have a community of some great people who really care about democracy, and that's why we're here, to drive democracy, to give you a voice, and to talk about issues that may not be talked about. We're completely independent and love shaking it up, and you know, without a partisan slang. We're just here to talk about what the issues are and to show that democracy doesn't have to be super partisan. And that's pretty much all I have for today. So thanks, guys, and I will see you next week.